You're told the sky is empty, that space is silent, that what hangs above you at night is nothing but cold distance and dead light from dying stars. But that isn't what the satellites see, and the satellites never blink. High above the clouds, beyond the reach of weather and birds and commercial airliners, military satellites drift in precise, patient orbits, their lenses polished like unblinking eyes, their sensors tuned to heat, motion, radiation, patterns too subtle for the human body to ever perceive, and night after night they record things that were never meant to be recorded. It begins with a flicker, a thermal anomaly over an ocean that should be empty, a shape colder than the surrounding air yet somehow brighter on infrared, moving without wings, without exhaust, without any signature of propulsion, crossing 100 miles in less than a second and stopping as if the concept of momentum never applied to it. Operators in secure facilities, rooms lit only by screens and stale fluorescent light, rewind the footage again and again, thinking it's a glitch, cosmic interference, a calibration error. But the object is still there on every spectrum, visible, infrared, radar overlay, gravitational distortion readings that spike for less than a heartbeat and then flatten as if something massive briefly pressed against the fabric of the planet and then let go. They tag it, archive it, label it with sterile codes, and for a while nothing happens, until another satellite in a different orbit catches the same object 3 minutes later on the opposite side of the Earth. Impossible unless it traveled through the planet or around it faster than physics allows. The official explanation is sensor malfunction, but malfunctions don't synchronize across independent systems built by different contractors in different decades. Then comes the pattern no one wants to admit is a pattern. The sightings cluster above nuclear submarines, missile silos, aircraft carriers, the quiet teeth of nations hidden beneath ocean surfaces and buried under planes. The objects don't attack, don't fire, don't signal. They hover and watch, and sometimes they descend, slipping through clouds without disturbing them, pausing above the water where a submarine glides in darkness below, as if acknowledging it, as if counting it. One satellite records a luminous sphere lowering itself until it touches the ocean's surface and the water around it begins to boil, not explosively but silently, steam spiraling upward in a perfect column while the sphere remains unchanged. And then it sinks straight down, vanishing beneath miles of crushing pressure where no human craft could survive. Sonar logs from that same hour later reveal a shape beneath the submarine, pacing it, matching its course exactly, a second heartbeat in the deep. Analysts tell themselves it's coincidence until the timestamps align too perfectly, until they notice that whenever tensions rise between countries, whenever missile systems are placed on higher alert, the objects appear more frequently, like vultures circling before a battle that hasn't started yet. In one recording, a satellite captures something even stranger, a triangular silhouette eclipsing the stars, visible only because it blocks them out, a moving absence against the night sky, edges too sharp, angles too deliberate, drifting above a desert missile range. The stars vanish behind it, and reappear as it passes, and for a moment the triangle splits into 3 separate lights that spiral outward, form a wider perimeter around the base, and then merge back into one before accelerating straight upward, leaving no trail, no sonic boom, just a lingering distortion that ripples through the atmosphere like heat over asphalt. The data analysts zoom in and discover faint pulses emanating from the object at regular intervals, pulses that match the frequency of encrypted military communications from the base below, as if it is listening, as if it understands. Years pass, more footage accumulates, and the classification levels climb higher, access restricted to smaller and smaller circles, until even generals are told only fragments. Some nights the satellites catch flashes on the dark side of the moon, brief metallic glints near craters where no spacecraft is scheduled to be, and one particularly clear sequence shows a thin structure casting a shadow across the lunar surface that wasn't there in previous passes, a structure too geometric to be natural, gone again 48 hours later. The explanation offered is shifting light angles, but the shadow's edges are straight as rulers. The worst recordings are the ones that don't show movement at all. They show something waiting. A satellite focused on the Arctic once detected a massive heat signature beneath the ice, larger than a city, stationary for months, and then, on a single night when geomagnetic storms disrupted global communications, the ice above it cracked in a perfect circle and the heat signature rose, slow and deliberate, punching through frozen kilometers and hovering just above the surface. The satellite feed glitched as if overwhelmed, pixels tearing across the screen, but in the distortion operators could make out vertical lines along the object's surface, lines that glowed like veins, and then every nearby sensor, civilian weather satellites, commercial GPS arrays, briefly lost signals simultaneously. When the feed stabilized, the ice had refrozen, smooth and unbroken, and the heat signature was gone. There are whispers among technicians of a live feed that was cut before anyone could archive it, a feed showing an object approaching the satellite itself, growing larger in the frame without any detectable approach vector, simply expanding as if space between it and the camera were being removed. The last clear image allegedly shows a surface that isn't metal but something fluid and reflective, shifting patterns across it like skin responding to touch, and then the satellite goes dark permanently, written off as orbital debris impact. Insurance paperwork replaces curiosity. Yet the sightings continue. They begin to appear in synchronized formations, 5 or 6 objects moving in perfect geometric shapes that rotate without breaking formation, as though connected by invisible rods, and when one changes direction the others adjust instantly, no lag, no communication delay, as if they share a single mind. Spectral analysis of their light emissions reveals frequencies embedded within frequencies, complex mathematical sequences that resemble prime number chains and fractal equations, the kind of patterns scientists once proposed as universal greetings to extraterrestrial intelligence, except these patterns are not being broadcast outward into space. They are directed downward, toward Earth, toward us. One declassified fragment describes an incident where an object hovered above a missile silo and the silo's internal systems activated without command, countdown protocols initiating and then halting at 1 second remaining, over and over, like a child tapping a glass to watch something inside flinch. The satellite footage shows the object pulsing brighter each time the countdown reaches 1. As if feeding on the anticipation of detonation. Engineers found no malware, no intrusion, nothing that could explain the activation. As if feeding on the anticipation of detonation. Engineers found no malware, no intrusion, nothing that could explain the activation. The object leaves, and the silo returns to normal. But the message lingers unspoken. Whatever they are, they can reach into our most secure systems as easily as we reach into our pockets. And then there are the nights when the satellites capture something descending not from deep space but from just beyond the atmosphere, as though it had been hiding there all along, in the thin boundary where Earth ends and nothing begins. These objects drift into low orbit, match the velocity of the satellites themselves, and for a few seconds fly alongside them, almost companionably, before veering away at impossible angles. In one slowed frame, analysts noticed what looked like indentations along the side of the craft, circular recesses arranged in rows, too uniform to be damaged, like empty sockets waiting to be filled. The more footage is reviewed, the clearer the pattern becomes. The objects are not randomly exploring. They are mapping. They linger over infrastructure, over power grids, over cities at night where human lights cluster brightest, and their paths trace lines that, when overlaid on a global map, form a web connecting strategic points with eerie precision. It resembles a nervous system. It resembles preparation. Some operators have confessed, off record, that after years of watching these feeds they no longer feel like observers but like subjects in an experiment. Lab animals under a microscope that orbits far above. The satellites were built to watch enemies across borders, to detect missile launches and troop movements. But now they spend more time watching the sky itself, because that is where the unknown moves. One chilling clip shows a cluster of objects high above a thunderstorm, lightning flashing beneath them. And with each strike the objects flash in response, not randomly but in a delayed mimicry, echoing the lightning's branching patterns with their own luminous tendrils, as if learning the language of electricity. Then, in a final synchronized burst, they emit a pulse downward that causes every lightning channel in the storm to converge at a single point in the ocean, creating a blinding pillar of light visible from orbit. The next morning, ships in the area report compass failures and dead radios. No official statement connects the events. The satellites keep orbiting, keep recording, and the archive grows heavier with each anomaly, a digital mausoleum of moments that defy explanation. And perhaps the most terrifying detail is not the speed, not the silence, not the way these objects toy with our weapons and our weather, but the consistency with which they avoid direct contact. They could land on the White House lawn, on the steps of the Kremlin, on the Great Wall, and end all doubt in a single gesture, but they don't. They stay just beyond reach, just beyond proof, visible only to machines designed to spy, as if they prefer to be seen by our eyes in the sky rather than our eyes on the ground. As if they know that satellites are the closest thing humanity has to their own perspective, cold and distant and circling endlessly. And when you step outside at night and look up, remember that above the stars you can see, above the faint line of a passing satellite gliding like a slow-moving star, there may be something else gliding too, something that pauses when it passes over the place where you stand. Something that tilts slightly as if focusing, as if aware that down there, in the dark, a fragile species has finally begun to look back.